Good morning. My name is Jared Hammond, and I am the chair of the worship arts team here at East Shore Unitarian Universalist Church in Kirtland, Ohio. Thank you all for joining us here today beneath the beacon and on Facebook Live. Whether you are a member or friend of our congregation, whether you join us every Sunday or only occasionally, whether we've known you for decades or you've met us for the very first time today, whether you are with us under the beacon this morning or you join us from your own sacred space, you are welcome here. Acknowledging your skin color, ancestry, and expressions of gender, your net worth, political opinions, and the people who you love, and the long and winding journey that brought you here this morning, you are welcome. May this be a time of reflection and renewal, a time to live into our mission to love, revere, discover, and connect. And I invite you now to please rise as you are willing and able to join in singing our opening hymn, number 1008, in the Teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. We call ourselves to worship this morning with the words of Dana E. Worsnop. Often people say that they love coming to a place with so many like-minded people. I know just what they're getting at, and I know that they aren't getting it quite right. I don't want to be with a bunch of people who think just like me. I want to be in beloved community where I don't have to think like everyone else to be loved, to be eligible for salvation. I want to be with people who value compassion, justice, love, and truth, though they have different thoughts and opinions about all sorts of things. I want to be with independent-minded people of good heart. I want to be with people who have many names and no name at all for God. I want to be with people who see me in goodness and dignity, who also see my failings and foibles, and who still love me. I want to be with people who feel their interconnection with all existence and let it guide their footfalls upon the earth. I want to be with people who see life as a paradox and don't always rush to resolve it. I want to be with people who are willing to walk the tightrope that is life and who will hold my hand as I walk mine. I want to be with people who let church call them into a different way of being in the world. I want to be with people who support, encourage, and even challenge each other to higher and more ethical living. I want to be with people who inspire one another to follow the call of the Spirit. I want to be with people who covenant to be honest, engaged, and kind, who strive to keep their promises and hold me to the promises I make. I want to be with people who give of themselves, who share their hearts and minds and gifts. I want to be with people who know that human community is often warm and generous, sometimes challenging, and almost always a grand adventure. In short, I want to be with people like you.
We call this light before us in hope that we may always remain a strong community working to make the world a better place. When we are grieving or sad, when we are challenged, when we need help, this flame guides us out of the darkness. When we are cheerful, when we celebrate, when we accomplish a great task, when we return to a place that makes us happy. The chalice reminds us to share our happiness with others.
So this is the part of the service where I ask you to take your stone out of your pocket or out of that bowl at the front of the aisle there and hold on to it. Because this is something that requires a little bit of substance. This is a bit of foundation. It's the foundation of our community when we come together and share our joys and cares, the milestones of our lives, and the difficult parts, like walking a tightrope. So I'll ask you to hold on to that stone however you see fit, imbue it with energy, take from it its strength, or just hold a rock if that's what it is to you, while we share the joys and cares that are on our hearts and minds this morning. Now, I happen to know, spoiler alert, that there are none written in the book this morning. But that doesn't mean that there aren't things that everybody cares about. I know that we're all feeling the concern over the rise in, the continuing rise in COVID-19 cases as we see yet another wave of the newest variant. And we're doing what we can to take our own precautions while still being a part of this community and the other communities that we're a part of. So we keep that in our hearts and minds this morning. And on top of that, anything else, absolutely anything else, spoken and unspoken this morning, we keep on our hearts and minds as we hold these stones and we hold together a period of silence. And then when the singing bowl sounds, I will invite you to join me in placing these stones in the bowl at the center of our sanctuary beneath our beacon. Please join me in placing your stones. Following the sharing of all of these milestones, and especially the challenges, I'd like to share with you a prayer from Elizabeth Wynn about when we are challenged. Spirit, I would really rather not learn this. Didn't think I needed to. I thought someone else could do it. Thought a leader was coming to do it. Thought the young people could do it, or the elders could do it, the professionals. Or I don't want to learn it, because it means letting go of something I hold dear. Letting go of being someone who knows the answers. Letting go of being someone who doesn't know. Letting go of the way I see the world. Letting go of how I might have to change. Letting go of certainty, of logic, of facts, of control. Of the myth that you can live on this earth and not harm. Or the myth that I can't learn anything new. Help me learn it, please. And then help me to live what I have learned and do right by the gift of being taught.
Okay, Super Tiny by Reverend Sunshine Jeremiah Wolf. I know you can read that, but it's such a cool name, I wanted to say it. Once there was a little girl named Amanda who loved to help other people. She helped her Papa David and her puppy Caesar to clean the house. She raked the leaves in her neighbor Jim's yard when he was in pain and couldn't do it himself. And she tutored her friend Sarah in math. So when it came time for her class to do a project to help people in her hometown, she was excited. Teacher Mike assigned each student a community of people that they should help. Some would help people living with illness, some would clean yards for those who could not clean their own. Each project was a little bit different. Teacher Mike told Amanda that he would like her to help people in Walden, the poor part of town, who are hungry. He said, "You can do any type of service project you like, but I want you to help those who are hungry." Amanda couldn't wait. She thought all day about what she could do. When she got home, she told Papa David and Poppy Caesar about the project. "I want to make sandwiches and take them to the people who are hungry." Papa David and Poppy Caesar and their neighbor Jim and her friend Sarah made 100 sandwiches for the poor people in Walden. The next day, Poppy Caesar drove with Amanda to Walden. She had placed each sandwich in a bag with a piece of fruit. She tried handing out the sandwiches, but no one really seemed interested in them. Poppy Caesar couldn't explain to her why no one wanted the sandwiches. She offered them to people who were young and old, brown and white, and friendly and rude, but the answer was always the same. "Oh, I ate earlier, thank you." Then she saw another little girl about her age. The little girl seemed to be watching Amanda, observing her with a look of laughter and curiosity. Amanda approached the little girl. "Would you like a sandwich?" The little girl looked at her for a moment and then said, "Aren't you going to ask me my name?" Amanda was a little embarrassed. "Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Amanda. What is your name?" "My name is Tiny." This name was clearly appropriate. The little girl was tiny. "Why are you handing out sandwiches?" "Well, it is a class project. I was asked to help those who are hungry here in Walden. So my Papa David and my Poppy Caesar and Jim and Sarah and I made sandwiches to give everyone." Tiny laughed. "Well, we do get hungry here sometimes, but we never take food from strangers. Some of my neighbors go to the soup kitchen each evening." She paused to laugh some more, and then, "Your teacher really asked you to help the hungry?" Amanda was a little upset that Tiny thought that this was so funny. Without really thinking, she blurted out angrily, "Well, what would you do then?" She didn't mean to get so mad, but she did not like that someone thought her being helpful was funny. Tiny stopped laughing and looked seriously at Amanda. "You really want to help us?" Amanda nodded, but didn't speak because she was too mad. "Well, we have a garden that the city gave us. They gave us seeds, but most of the seeds were bad, or not food that any of us will be able to eat much of, like turnips." Tiny made a grimace. "Yuck, who needs 1,000 turnip seeds?" Amanda laughed. Tiny explained that what they really needed were healthy seeds for foods her community would eat, and tools to help dig up the land and water the garden. Tiny said that if Amanda really wanted to help, she could get her class and her dads and her friends to write letters to the city council asking that a grocery store be put in the neighborhood, because the closest one was a 45-minute bus ride. Tiny and Amanda talked for a long time, and not just about the needs of Walden. They both liked to jump rope and sing songs and make bird calls. Poppy Caesar spent time chatting with Tiny's mom, and soon the two families were friends. Amanda decided that her project would be to ask her church, her class at school, her family, and her friends to come down to Walden and ask the people what they needed. They helped the community get the tools and seeds for the garden and shared in a big harvest meal in the fall. It would take a long time, but eventually they would help get a grocery store in Walden. They had a big festival to celebrate their success together. Amanda learned a big lesson that day. She learned that you cannot decide what people need help with. You have to ask them what they need you to do and then do it. She also learned that sometimes if you ask a stranger what they need, you might just make a friend.
We are the
generation. We are the kids that no one wants. We are a credible threat to the rules you set, a cause to be alarmed. We are not the names that we've been given. We speak a language you don't know. We are the nowhere generation, the nowhere generation. Oh. And one day, all the walls will come down, all the doors will open, all the roads will lead home. But right now, we're spiraling down, and the longer we wait, the further we go. I know we're slipping through the cracks now. No place left on your map now to go home. We are the nowhere generation. We are the kids that no one wants. We are a credible threat to the rules you set, a cause to be alarmed. We are not the names that we've been given. We speak a language you don't know. We are the nowhere generation, the nowhere generation. Oh. And for your sweat you'll be rewarded. They told us every day there's a land of milk and honey, and it's not that far away. But the finish line kept moving, and the promises wore thin, and the smoke on the horizon was the burning promised land. And this place used to be somewhere, but they sold it out from under us, our voices all ignored. We are the nowhere generation, the kids that no one wants. We are a credible threat to the rules you set, a cause to be alarmed. We are not the names that we've been given. We speak a language you don't know. We are the nowhere generation, the nowhere generation. Oh. Yet we climb these burning ladders, till we raise for them the hammer swinging low. And what exactly are we after, they will ask, and we will answer. We are the nowhere generation. We are the kids that no one wants. We are a credible threat to the rules you set, a cause to be alarmed. We are not the names that we've been given. We speak a language you don't know. We are the nowhere generation. Oh. Oh. We are the nowhere generation. The nowhere generation. Nowhere generation. Oh. Happy Sneak a Zucchini Onto Your Neighbor's Porch Day. That's right. The title of today's sermon is not just a fun prank suggestion. It's a national holiday. Apparently zucchini grows really well, and everyone who grows it ends up with a lot of it. And that's why Pennsylvanian Thomas Roy decided to create this holiday, along with the over 40 holidays that he's created throughout his life. It's celebrated exactly as one might expect. You wait until the dead of night and sneak up to your neighbor's porch, and you leave some of your excess zucchini. Now it's their problem. Did anybody participate last night? And you know, that's precisely why I wanted to tell you about this holiday today. Not just because I find it terribly amusing, which I do. Not because I want you to participate next year, but please tell me how it goes. But because of how many of you participated this year. Because you see, sneaking a zucchini onto your neighbor's porch reminds me a lot of Unitarian Universalist evangelism. And see, I have a special note here in my script, just in case if everybody laughed, to address anybody who's new. So if anybody's new here or out on Facebook Live or watching on YouTube, you might be wondering why evangelism is funny. Don't worry, we'll get there. But it's very simpler if you think about it. And you all decided to let me be the chair of the worship arts team, so get ready, we're going to think about it a lot. Picture this. It's August 8th, 1997. The time is whatever time you woke up that day. It was a Friday, if that helps. You walk to the front door to pick up the paper, feed the neighborhood stray cat, blast the #1 song that week, I'll Be Missing You by Puff Daddy and Faith Evans on the boombox. But you don't do that. Not today. Because today there's a basket of zucchini on your front porch. Not just one zucchini. Not even just one type of zucchini. There are Gadzooks, Dunja, Gourmet Golds, Round Denise, Zephyrs, Cocozels, Golden Eggs, Rampicot, Caserta, and, yes, my friends, even the Black Beauty. So much zucchini. What would you have done on August 8th of 1997 upon discovering this mountain of zucchini on your front porch? Would you say to yourself, "Self, I need to go volunteer and dedicate the rest of my life to the garden where these zucchini were grown"? Of course not. Of course not. First of all, you have no idea where they were grown or who left them there to be able to figure out how to get there. Second of all, it's a kindness to receive some food, but knowing what we now know about the holiday, they were also unburdening themselves. And who knows if you have space or a way to use all that zucchini in time. I'm told it doesn't can or freeze well. And lastly, even if you knew who left them there and knew where they were grown and really appreciated receiving those zucchini, what does that have to do with volunteering in that person's garden? They didn't ask you for help in the garden or give any indication that they desired to have you in their garden. They just gave you the fruits of their labor. That's right, I said fruits. You might be thinking zucchini is a vegetable, but they contain seeds and are biologically a fruit. I never said this wouldn't be an upsetting experience, I'm sorry. But all of that is what makes this like Unitarian Universalist evangelism, right? That's what we do. We give of the fruits of our labor here at church, whatever that means to us. Participating in social justice activity, trying to live in such a way as to respect the interconnected web of all existence of which we are a part, conducting a free and responsible search for truth and meaning in our lives, things like that. We don't often invite people to join us, really, or give them any reason to want to. This is just another church building with church people in it, right? All churches do things to show off how helpful they are to the world, right? Run a food bank out the back door, hold a regular blood drive, donate to community partners. Essentially, we leave zucchini on people's porches. No direction on how to use it because we don't have a creed. It's not our place to tell you what to do with your zucchini. No reason as to why we left it. It was just the right thing to do, right? We had some to give. No indication that we could really use some help in the garden. If we build it, they will come, right? But then again, it's not so easy as just leaving a note with the zucchini, is it? Amanda learned that from Tiny in our story earlier. You can't just decide for someone how you want to help them. You have to ask. Perhaps they don't need a basket of zucchini. Perhaps they don't need a place to gather on Sunday morning. But what then? What do they need? I don't know. We'll have to ask them. Okay, we'll ask them. Who are they? Who are these people who are receiving our zucchini, but not joining our garden? They're the nowhere generation. They're the kids who felt unwanted because they spent all of their time in the attic or another wing away from the congregation. They come from every named generation, not just mine or the ones of the current youth. They're every youth or young adult in history who has ever given a basket of zucchini, but not a reason to want to tend to this garden. I can't tell you why the zucchini, what this congregation has to offer, isn't enough for people to come, and more importantly, to stay. But perhaps it would help to know why it was enough for me. I'm a young adult after all. I'm one of them. I think the difference for me is that I knew, or was offered a path to discover, what I wanted to do with what this community offered me. And I was given so many opportunities, including this one right here, right now, today, to do something with what this community has offered me. You've given me a platform, although admittedly I don't use it much because then I'd be too high for the mic and be out of the frame for Facebook Live. But I've shared my thoughts, my music, our joys and cares, the highs, the lows, the creative, the dull, everything I could ever imagine from this pulpit and my computer at home. That was what I needed from this community. You all gave that to me and let me give back. But that's just me. If you want anyone else, if we want anyone else to walk through those doors, to lean down, check the soil, plant some roots of their own, we have to help them care for the seeds of what they bring with them. A person, even a young person, is not your future or the future of this congregation. They are a person unto themselves, with their own desires, goals, hopes, dreams, failures, stories, needs. So, by all means, let us please keep growing some zucchini and sneaking it into every part of our lives. But once that zucchini makes it into someone else's hands, then we take the next step. That's the challenge. We ask that person what they want to make with their zucchini and how we can help. Thank you. That's very kind. If you were interested in what you can do to help, good news, it's that part of the service. This is the part where we talk about all the things that you do give, the ways in which you grow zucchini here at East Shore. When you show up for yesterday's church work day, when you show up on this morning and bring flowers and help light things and say words and all kinds of great things and meet with people and make each other happy and sad and challenge each other and all that great stuff, and financial support. Thank you all for the financial support that you give in the form of your pledges each month. And thank you in advance as I ask you all to give just a little bit more as we pass around the collection baskets for our offering. Let's put some seeds in there so we can grow some excellent zucchini and make bread and stir fry and stuff. Sometimes it's just that simple. You asked, I answered, you gave. Thank you for everything that you've given. And please know that of these financial gifts that you've given today and that you give as a part of your monthly pledges, that the board always promises to use it in the best way possible to help this community. Now I would like to invite you to join in standing as you feel able to do so, and open up your teal hymnal to number 1058. That is, Be Ours a Religion. And now we end our time together this morning, starting with the words of Andrea Hawkins Camper. May we see all as it is, and may it all be as we see it. May we be the ones to make it as it should be. For if not us, who? If not now, when? This is answering the cry of justice with the work of peace. This is redeeming the pain of history with the grace of wisdom. This is the work we are called to do, and this is the call we answer now. To be the barrier and the bridge. To be the living embodiment of our principles. To be about the work of building the beloved community. To be a people of intention and a people of conscience. A few announcements before we get to our final words, our bond of union. Coming up this week, on Monday, the men's group will be meeting here in person at 7 p.m. Tuesday, the 7th principal group will be meeting at noon at Chapin Forest. Wednesday, the prayer circle begins as it always does at 6:15 in the morning here in the chapel, as well as on Facebook Live. And then later that evening at 7 p.m. will be that week's in-person beverages and banter here at the church. Friday, beverages and banter on Zoom will be at 2 p.m. And coming up in a couple of Saturdays on August 28th at 10 a.m., Halcyon will be leading a bit of a field trip, not just for faith development, but for absolutely everybody at the Cleveland Art Museum. And she'll be taking everybody through the different art and kind of explaining from her experience with art and faith development and everything, how each of those are a part of the world's religions. She will need a head count to be able to reserve tickets, so if you're interested in that, make sure you reach out to Halcyon. And then one last important thing. If you were here last week, you may remember that we had a little bit of trouble with the microphone and the speakers and everything. There was some trouble hearing. Some of that was the intense rain, but some of that was speaker issues. So I just want to remind everybody that please do not touch any of the speakers if you are not one of the people trained to use the sound system. There's some things that are kind of messed up with how they're placed at the moment, and that needs to be fixed. Thank you to Christine for figuring out a way to kind of work around that for today so that we can all hear the words I was saying. But please, if you want to be trained, they would love to have you. But unless if you are, just try not, don't touch it. All right. Now, I invite you to rise and join hands if you feel comfortable doing so, but at the very least voices in sharing our bond of union. And we'll bring our Facebook Live friends along with us and eventually our YouTube friends. We join hands in Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, pledging ourselves Thank you for joining me with us, internet friends. Have a great rest of your day.